Hey, it's Elsie Wellings, and I am here with Brad discussing postpartum return to sport, and we can't wait.
Failure is not an option.
I've had my ups and my downs.
I think it's an absolutely breakthrough experience.
Welcome to the Physical Performance Show, the show designed to inspire the pursuit of your physical best performance. I'm your host, Brad Beer. Listen in as we delve into how the world's top physical performers achieve their success, as well as the highs, the lows, and the journey of getting there. Let's get ready, set, let's go. Welcome to the Physical Performance Show, brought to you by Earshot's Bluetooth magnetic headphones for cyclists and runners who charge, Pogo Physio's online telehealth consultations, and of course, the Physical Performance Show's very own Learn-Ins membership. I'm Brad Beer, sports physiotherapist and exercise scientist by trade and training, and each week we'll bring you the latest and greatest information and inspiration designed to help you perform at your physical best. And of course, we do this across a range of our different episodes: coaches' corners, interest editions, catch-up episodes, featured performers, and expert editions. And hot off the back of our successive string of episodes focused on all things postpartum return to sport, today you'll enjoy the last installment of the series on postpartum return to sport, featuring return guest of the show, now 3 times return guest in fact, Eloise Wellings. Now, as always, Elsie is such a loved guest of the show. She is intelligent, witty, and as always, insightful. And as mentioned, this is the 4th installment of a month-long series on return to sport postpartum. It started back on episode 270 with US-based medical exercise specialist Celeste Goodson, before jumping over to Vic Mitchell, Jess Trengove last week, and now, of course, Eloise Wellings, who are all athletic mums and, incidentally, Australian athletics teammates. Now, Elsie has appeared on the show in prior episodes, way back on episode 32, and then again on episode 107 after Eloise's Commonwealth Games 2018 outing. By way of bio, Elsie is a dual Australian Olympian, featuring at the 2012 London and 2016 Rio Olympic Games, whereby in 2016, Elsie was a 5,000 and 10,000 metre finalist. Elsie has been a 4 times Australian Commonwealth Games representative. Alongside Elsie's running, she is the mother of 2 beautiful children, daughter Indy and son Sonny. And of course, those that know and follow Elsie know her passion for her foundation, which she co-founded, the Love Mercy Foundation. If you'd like to know more about Love Mercy, then jump back to episode 107, where Elsie featured following her 2018 Commonwealth Games appearance, and she shared the Love Mercy story alongside co-founder Julius Akon. In addition, Elsie speaks corporately with prior featured expert of the show, Rory Darkens, around unlocking an Olympian mindset. And during today's episode, Elsie, as always, shares openly around her challenges returning to sport postpartum, what she has learnt across 2 pregnancies. Elsie talks through the disappointment of incurring bone stress injuries postpartum, the psychology that accompanies that, her upcoming and pending book release titled One More Try, the Love Mercy's Mother Run, very apt given this month-long series, and so much more. Get set for some incredible learn-ins and postpartum highs and lows with this week's return guest of the show, Eloise Wellings. Eloise Wellings, welcome back to the Physical Performance Show.
Hi, Brad. Thanks for having me.
It has been 166 weeks since you were last a featured guest, way back on episode 107 with Love Mercy co-founder Julius Akon. So what's happened in the last 166 weeks?
Really, it feels like yesterday. A lot has happened, actually. We've had another little boy. We've had a little boy, another baby Sonny. I don't know. The world's just completely changed, hasn't it? in the last 18 months, at least.
When you appeared last, it was post your 2018 Commonwealth Games outing, and since 2018, it seems like it is a different world.
Yep.
And then obviously we've featured your What's Right Within podcast co-host, Rory Darkens, at the end of 2020 on a featured performer episode on all things positive psychology. So it does feel like you've been a topic of conversation in the last 166 weeks. But Elsie, we are on this theme of exploring return to sport postpartum. And in the last several weeks, we've featured an expert edition with US-based medicine exercise specialist Celeste Goodson, and then some of your teammates, Jess Stenson, Nee Trengove, Vic Mitchell, and now yourself. So it's been quite the little baby boom amongst Australian athletics distance runners.
It has. It's been really fun, actually, I felt like with Indy, I didn't really know any other athletes that were having babies around the same time. But this time it was actually really fun because Vic and Jess and I were obviously all expecting our babies within sort of 3 weeks of each other. And that's how it actually turned out as well. They were all relatively on time. And so it's been really fun to have those two girls to kind of glean from, and calling each other every now and then and giving each other breastfeeding tips and, weaning tips as well, which is always all the challenging things. But yeah, it's been really great to see those girls. I say girls, but it's, an endearing Aussie term. They're obviously women. To see those women, thrive during this time and and get back to running what they love to do as well, get back to their careers.
Yeah, absolutely. And you yourself, obviously, you're on the trajectory to return as well. You posted earlier in the year that your second track race in 3 years happened to be the 2021 Australian National Championships. And, you listed your time, 9:08, and then your comment made me smile. You can't steer a parked car a step in the right direction. How do you reconcile putting your foot on the starting line, knowing you're not back to your best, but as you say, you can't steer a parked car?
I just think I'm at the point in my career where I just think if you're not prepared to make yourself vulnerable and come out when you're not quite at your best, then the question is, when are you going to do that? Because I know that these races, I think at the end of the day, I know that these races are going to take me forward a lot and probably 3 times more than what a general workout would in terms of fitness and strength gains. And so even though, I'm well off my personal best I was well off my personal best for that 3K, I know that in the weeks after, I just felt so much stronger and so much fitter for doing that race. And I'm just also really enjoying it. I'm just really enjoying the process of getting back to my best. And I keep having this one word trajectory in my mind when I'm training. And I feel like I'm on the right trajectory. And, I'm still gonna have a crack at trying to qualify for Tokyo in the next, we've got sort of 4 weeks. I've got 2 5K races in the next 4 weeks, and I might get it and I might not, but there's a chance and I'm on the right trajectory. And if I don't get it, I'll hopefully be really close, and, it's exciting, and I'm just going to give it a crack. And I'm actually really just enjoying, as I said, the process of getting back to my best. And I know that this will be another step in that direction.
Do you think that mindset, Elsie, that approach comes with maturity? Is there any way to short circuit that, that ability just to go, I'm just going to enjoy this because, as you say, it's a step in the right direction?
I think so. I think that as you get older, you kind of lose the need or the necessity to be insecure about the result as much. And I think especially after having children, one of the purposes of continuing running is to show my kids that they can do hard things and they should try and do hard things. I want to show them that even, when you're not at your best, you should just give it your best shot. I don't know, just model, I guess, what I want for them. And that's just to be free to enjoy their passion and enjoy their gift. And no matter how that looks. and that's just what I'm trying to do. And like I say, I'm really taking joy. It's actually probably the most in the last sort of 6 months of like really found this new joy in running.
Gosh, I mean, that's inspiring in and of itself, that a lifelong runner can be coming into a sweet spot, with enjoying it. I mean, you've got your penned book, which will be released in the future, but at the second draft stage, and you posted this on Instagram recently, one more try. And you mentioned cracks in there, Elsie. In the excerpt, we all have one more try in us. I'm convinced of it, not only as runners, but as parents and children, husbands and wives, teachers, pastors, humanitarians, nurses, coaches and students, friends, mentors, neighbours. We're all gifted with the possibility, as far as it depends on us, to have another crack. The next good thing, the next good thing. Wow. So this book, you've popped this in the mix of leading Love Mercy, your well-known charity, and we'll talk about the Mother Run. You've popped this in the middle of parenting Sonny and parenting Indy, and your return to run endeavours. Where has this fitted in, Elsie?
It's kind of been a dream of mine for a number of years, and I've had the privilege of speaking around to young people, especially in schools and also corporately. And I've always wanted to put my story down on paper, and in order to have it in written form and to encourage people through their own challenges. And to, just as simple as that, to encourage them to keep going and to keep getting up and to not give up about what they're passionate about, and to give it one more try. And I asked a friend to come alongside me, Simon Elliott, who's been amazing through the process. We've done hundreds of hours of interviews and writing sessions, and it hasn't been an easy process. And I think that I put that in the post as well. It's been like it's been a roller coaster, but it's also it's been like quite therapeutic for me as well. And it's actually made me really appreciate the journey that I've been on once again. And I mean, it's definitely vulnerable. And there's been times when I've thought, oh my gosh, I can't believe, am I really doing this? Is this like something that I want my daughter's teacher to know about me? But at the end of the day, I just want to help people, and I want the words that are in this book to breathe life into people and to help. Yeah, it's in its third draft. It's really exciting. We're hoping to have it. I actually don't know when it'll be out yet. I wish I could give you a date, but we haven't got a publisher yet. It's kind of the next process, the next step in the process. It's on its way.
Watch this space, and you're a great communicator. Anyone that knows you or follows you knows that. So there will be some great gems in those pages, Elsie. And then the Mother Run, what a fantastic initiative and uncanny timing that we are going to zero in on this returning to sports postpartum topic today. But can you share a little bit about this great initiative, 5K a day in May? I mean, to date, there's been in excess of $13,500 raised and almost 5,000 kilometres run.
It's something that we've done with our Love Mercy Foundation. This is the second year that we've run it. Last year was a little bit of a launch year, I guess, a soft launch. And this year we've really gone for it. We've had 175 people sign up to run, walk or move 5 kilometres a day. And it's to raise money for our Christina Health Centre in northern Uganda. And in the Christina Health Centre, we have a maternity space. There's 5 full-time midwives that deliver around 100, on average 100 babies per month in that space. And $50 will go towards a safe birthing kit. So we're just basically ask people to sign up to run, walk or move 5 kilometres a day, and get people to sponsor them to do that in May, with the idea of getting lots of $50 to buy safe birthing kits for the Christina Health Centre in northern Uganda. And over the last since September. 2017, there's been 804 babies, healthy babies born in the centre. And we have a really big vision for that maternity space. We'd love to be able to perform emergency cesareans in that space in the future. And so that's kind of our bigger vision for the space. But at the moment, we're just standing alongside the midwives there and our Ugandan team, and in order to give women the opportunity to have a safe and empowered birth. And we just believe that every woman, no matter where she's from or where she lives or where she was born, deserves the right to the dignity of a safe and empowered birth. And that's why we want to stand alongside these women in northern Uganda. And we're so grateful for all the support that we've had so far. We're having a run, actually a local run, to kind of close out the 5K a day, the mother run, this weekend on Saturday, which would be great. And my pastors are doing it, my nephew's doing it, and there's a whole bunch of people that have got behind this. And we're hoping just to run it every year now, and hoping that it'll get bigger and better every year.
The mother run. And what needs to happen, Elsie, in the birthing centre there for the C-sections to be an option for women?
We probably have to raise around $200,000 we'd have to build a new building to make it a proper space, to have enough space to have all the equipment that's necessary to perform those surgeries. And we'd have to hire an anaesthetist and an obstetrician that would be on call. At the moment, anything less, I guess, or anything more than a natural birth, we need to refer to the nearest government hospital, which is about an hour and a half away. So we do have an ambulance and an emergency ambulance to transport women, but an hour and a half is a long way to travel when you've been in labour for a certain amount of hours. I know, in my experience, both of my births were emergency cesareans. Indy was definitely more of an emergency than Sonny, but I was 13 hours in. I'd been in labour for 13 hours, and when the doctor said we need to get this baby out, she was out within 15 minutes. I cannot even begin to imagine being in labour for that long and then getting in a car for an hour and a half on a bumpy road and then having to have surgery. It's just not good enough. We want to change that. We want to stand alongside these women and just bring about improved healthcare in this area of the world.
What a worthy goal. And as you say, those roads would not be highways like we might expect in the Western world. They are bumpy roads of dirt, right?
Yeah.
Elsie, your return to running post the birth of Sonny, who's now 19 months, what does that look like? I mean, this isn't your first return to running postpartum experience, so maybe contrast what it was like returning to running post Indy compared to returning to running post Sonny, your second child. Have there been any differences or anything that you've done differently?
I felt like in coming back from they were both very different. I mean, as I said, they were both, I had emergency cesareans with both, but with Indy, I'd actually been through proper labour for 13 hours beforehand. So it was a lot harder on my body. I felt like I waited a lot longer to start running when I had Indy, just because I had a little bit of PTSD after having her that I had to work through mentally. I didn't feel like running mentally. I wasn't ready to go out really for about 6 weeks, and I had to work with a psychologist to get through that. I wrote a bit about that in my book, but I mean, coming back from having Indy, it seemed. I mean, I remember the first run. I remember feeling like if I run 18 minutes for 5K again, then I'd be doing really well. And then it turned out, that I was at the Commonwealth Games 14, I guess, or 12 months later. I guess probably with having Indy, I started a little bit later, but I think I took my time a little bit more. Whereas with Sonny, because the Olympic carrot was dangling from the beginning, I started running 20 days after I had Sonny. The birthing process definitely wasn't as stressful or traumatic or physically traumatic even. I felt a lot better physically after having Sonny, and I felt really good to start jogging after 20 days. And I mean, I started with a jog walk. I started with 5 by 1 minute jogs and a 1 minute walk in between. And then I would just increase every 2 days. I think I increased by 2 or 3 1 minutes until I got to 20. And then I just did 20 in a row, 15 or 20 minutes in a row, and then gradually progressed from there. But I did with Sonny this time around. I always had a vision that, okay, with Indy, I was coming back to make the Commonwealth Games, which is a slightly easier team to make than the Olympic team. And the Olympic team, I knew like this time, obviously it'd have to be in the shape of my life to make the team. And so there's a little bit more pressure in terms of coming back, being on my game and trying to qualify as quickly as possible. And then obviously with COVID, we got a bit of a, we got 12 more months to recover and prepare. I don't know how much that's helped me. I feel like I kind of thought, well, I was going to need a miracle, and now there's actually like a really good chance that I could make it. And it probably made me push the envelope a little bit too much. And I had 2 bony stress injuries last year, so in 2020. I think there's a couple of reasons for that. There's always more than one reason, I believe, why we get injured. I don't think that you can necessarily, unless it's an acute injury like you roll your ankle or whatever. But with bony injuries, I don't think it's a number of things coming from a number of angles that you need to address. But one of the things I think is the fact that I was constantly training, because obviously with COVID there was no races on. So I wasn't getting this feedback from the races that I would normally get. And I was looking for that in training all the time. And so I think I was just pushing a little bit too hard before my body was ready. And then on top of that, I was obviously still breastfeeding, and there was just a number of different stresses on my body. I was waking up every 3 hours to do that. And, so sleep deprivation as well, and trying to run 120, 130 Ks a week. Then on top of that, I think my pelvic stability probably wasn't where it should be. I think when you have a baby, you try and get back into training. Well, this was my experience. If I had an hour window to go training, I would go for a run for an hour. Whereas in hindsight, I probably should have run for 40 minutes and done 20 minutes of like strength exercises. And, just really, I kind of was just getting a bit greedy in terms of like, okay, let's just get really fit in terms of running fitness and heart and lungs, which in hindsight, that your aerobic fitness can actually come back really easily when you're strong. But you've got to be able to do that work and without getting injured to get fit and strong. So I think the focus, when I got injured, I learned those lessons again that, okay, I've really got to hone in on my strength work. And, I commissioned Jock Campbell, my gym coach, to write me a new gym program. And I started meeting up with him more. And I think I just made a little bit more time and space to get my strength back. And I'm not even talking about that long ago. Like my last bony stress injury was at Christmas. So just in December/January, I started running back running on Australia Day. I think just really focusing in on the gym work and, trying to, having a chat to you, Brad, as well, was really helpful in terms of your research and your learnings around bone density and things that you can do in the gym to increase that, doing my kitchen bench jumps. But yeah, seriously, it was really helpful to be able to talk to you, and you're always a positive voice during those times. And But yeah, I think really just coming back to basics and not forgetting that to do the amount of running that I want to do, I've actually got to be strong first structurally. And you lose a bit of that when you're pregnant because everything gets a bit soft, which is totally normal and natural and really good and really helpful for creating a baby. And but then coming back to elite sport, you've got to remember that, okay, I've got to get strong again. And the only way to do that is, well, for me, is in the gym and lifting and doing the things that aren't really as fun as running. But you got to do them.
Would say amen to that. No one loves the gym, but I think we all love the benefits that we know we receive from it. And you bring up a really good point there, Elsie. Any runners under time constraints, whether it's beginner, recreationally competitive, professional, and then you throw in another layer of time constraints with an additional family member, in this case, your little boy, Sonny, and his needs. And yeah, if there's a window of time to go out for a run and get the happy hormones flowing and the endorphins, and it's much more appealing. But I think it was really empowering to hear you say that you had to learn the lessons again. As a lifelong runner, still learning lessons. I don't think it ever stops, does it?
Totally. Like I'm still a student of the sport. I've been running since I was 6. I'm now 38. And I've learned lessons. I've learned them over and over again. And I'm not ashamed to say that. And, when you have a certain amount of ambitiousness, sometimes that ambitiousness gets in the way of remembering the things that you've been taught the hard way, and you have to relearn them. And some things you have to unlearn as well. But yeah, I'm still, curious about, where my potential lies. I still believe that I've got, many years in me, and obviously still really passionate. And I think that is the number one thing, is that I still have the drive and the passion for what I do. And if you've got those things, then you can make it through any challenges that come up.
The drive and the passion, and you use the word ambition there. I think any level athlete has a level of ambition, and I think sometimes there's a sense of almost shame with repeat injuries where it's like, I've messed up again. That's what even myself, I tend to default to that, like, oh gosh. And then you reconcile the ambition that you've got goals, you know what you're potentially capable of, and you want to get there. Someone said to me recently, Elsie, and I laugh because it's so true, running fast is fun. That's why we often do it. It is more fun.
Yeah, it is.
But as you say, you got to learn the lessons. There's things you need to unlearn. What have you unlearned, Elsie, through these 2 bone stress injuries, postpartum, post-Sonny? Yeah,
well, it's funny that you say that, because I did actually feel, especially with my second bony injury last year, I had it. It was in the neck of my femur, which was the place of my very first stress fracture when I was 16 years old, and I missed out on the Sydney Olympics. And so it was really triggering. It was really like, oh my gosh, I feel 16 years old again. I feel all these same feelings. I'm walking differently like I was then. And I remember talking to I call her Auntie Kay. She's not my real auntie, but she does feel like family. She's my osteo who I've been seeing since I was 15. She said to me, it's important that you don't go back. You don't think of this. You haven't taken a step back to when you were 16. This has got nothing to do with the issues that you struggled with when you were 16. And she, like, we logically went through all of the reasons and say, okay, well, I've been through childbirth and my pelvis is a little bit different now. And, there's grace for that. I've been breastfeeding and, sometimes 12 hours a day. And so that's a stress on your system. And, the lack of sleep is another stress on your system. And then on top of that, you're trying to train like an elite athlete. So there was all of these logical reasons why, I might pick up a bony stress injury. But emotionally, it's really easy to go back into that, as you say, into that shame of like, oh no, I've messed up again. I've made bad decisions on behalf of my body, or my body just can't handle it. Or, what if this is the injury that ends my career? And, you go through all of those questions when you do have an injury. But at the end of the day, it's just about coming back to the process of getting through it. It's okay. Let's get this diagnosed. Let's find out what we're dealing with. And then, okay, how long, vaguely do I think that this is going to take to heal? And I've had these bony stress injuries before, so I know how long they take. And then making a plan, making a cross-training plan. And for me, it was, my injury was diagnosed around Christmas, and I spoke to my coach, Nick, and he's like, just have a week off. Do not cross-train, like give yourself a break, have a mental break, spend time with the family, like just enjoy Christmas and then start back in the new year. And I did. And it was great. Like I had 10 full days where I did nothing. And it just gave me the time and space to kind of reflect, okay, like what am I going to do differently when I come back? What's the plan for the next 4.5 weeks? And at the time I was on crutches too. So there was a process of getting back to walking properly. And, but yeah, just kind of strategizing what it's going to look like to come back. And I think going through that grieving process of feeling frustrated and disappointed and angry and all that is really important too, because you need to allow yourself to feel when you get injured, but then not staying in that space for too long, going, okay. And, I think I've said this before, Brad, but that's something that you've been really helpful with. It's like navigating that process of getting back to that point of, okay, let's look forward now. This is what I'm going to miss due to this injury, but what can I gain? What can I learn here? And how can I move forward? And how can I be a better athlete and a better person from the things that I learned through this challenge?
You're listening to Eloise Wellings, dual Australian Olympian, on this featured performer episode, deep diving on Eloise's return to sport postpartum. Support for today's show comes from Earshot's Bluetooth headphones. Earshot's headphones are simply for runners and cyclists who charge. They were forged in the rigours of New Zealand's national parks, where co-founder and T42 adventure racer CEO James Bell-Booth became frustrated by the constant distractions of his headphones dislodging and falling out. Earshot's Bluetooth headphones utilise an innovative, first-of-its-kind proprietary magnetic ear clip design. This unique design ensures that it can withstand the sharp shocks, speed and movements of action sports, unlocking new freedom of movement without compromising on sound. Moreover, if you are sick of your headphones going flat during long training sessions, then the good news is Earshots have solved that problem with 20 hours of charge life for Earshot's Bluetooth headphones. Now, the team have offered up 10% off your very own pair of Earshot's headphones simply by using the code TPPS over at checkout. Once again, that's TPPS over at checkout. Join many of the listenership of the Physical Performance Show, putting Earshots in their earbuds. Support for today's show also comes from Pogo Physio's online telehealth consultations. If you are a runner, endurance athlete looking to get back to your best following bone, tendon or joint-related concerns, then rest assured our 45-minute online telehealth consultations are a highly effective way to get you back to your physical best and across what we term here at Pogo Physio, your physio finish line. There are scores of examples of athletes successfully returning following these injuries worldwide and interstate here in Australia, including Sarah from Tasmania, who I assisted in getting back to her triathlon best following persistent sesamoiditis. Here's a little snippet from Sarah regarding her experience.
Hey, I'm Sarah. I'm a competitive age group triathlete from Australia, and telehealth 100% works. I did telehealth with Brad for chronic sesamoiditis, and I didn't need any hands-on treatment. I had exercise prescription and load management with my training. And this, along with Brad's expertise and genuine care, got me across my pogo finish line.
Thanks, Sarah. And if you'd like to schedule your own 45-minute online telehealth consultation, jump over to pogophysio.com.au/telehealth. Of course, support for today's show also comes from our Physical Performance Show Learnings membership. It's really simple. If you'd like to support the production of the show, you can do so from just $5 per month. In return, we'll grant you access to our back catalogue of live stream events and our upcoming 2021 live stream event schedule, with dates soon to be released, featuring Rory Darkens on all things positive psychology and very popular UK-based sports dietitian Riddy McGregor on all things fueling for endurance sports. To support the show, you can jump over to Patreon, just search The Physical Performance Show, and there you can pledge your support. For now, let's jump back with this week's featured guest, 3 times guest now of The Physical Performance Show, dual Australian Olympian, Eloise Wellings, sharing on her learnings postpartum return to sport. In the last 10 years, I think I'm 5 or 6 bony injuries. And each time I'm like, that's it. I'm done. I'm not coming back from that. I don't think I can come back from this. I can't go through the gut wrench of it again. What is it that triggers that, do you think? Is that it, the last dance?
I think it's a bit of a threat to you, a little bit to your identity, because in some ways I think we do tend to identify with our sport and what we do, and I think it's really important to create space from that and see yourself and value yourself away from your sport and away from what you do. But at the end of the day, all things get better. Like most things get better. I think one of the practical things for me too, and I've told so many young athletes about this too, is to have discipline around Google Doctor and not getting on Google every day to read other people's horror stories about their seemingly same injury as what you've got, because at the end of the day, they have a completely different makeup to you. And I could read many horror stories on Google about someone who had a stress fracture in their neck of femur and it's not got better. But I don't know if they're 75 years of age with osteoporosis and they have a completely different story to me. And so I think that that's important, because I think you can get really lost in somebody else's story on Google, and nobody ever goes onto Google as well and writes their good stories, because they're out running. They're out running. They're not sitting at home writing about how their injury hasn't healed, because they're out running. So there's lots of those stories that you're not reading about because they're out running. But yeah, I mean, that's just a little anecdote that I always share with younger athletes, because I know that it is really tempting to go, to find out more information, and we try and control the situation and try and find out as much as we can. But, you need to find trusted people around you, like a Brad Beer, or like your local physio or your local osteo, or whoever it is, your sports doctor, that you trust with the diagnosis and the plan moving forward, and then just commit to that and be disciplined around that, and not going looking for too many other stories to find confidence, or not, because you're probably not going to find confidence on Google Doctor.
Yeah, very practical, Elsie. And Vic Mitchell, who has just featured ahead of you as a featured guest with her journey postpartum return to sport, mentioned that you were a big help in her journey after her birth with little daughter Sky, and teaming her up with a respected medical professional, with Dr. Brandy Cole. She said Dr. Brandy helped her so much. So there's a great example of reaching out to a network of people who you can trust to get advice.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Brandy's done some research too recently around postpartum return to training. She actually works with the Matildas, the female Australian women's soccer team. She's actually going to Tokyo with the Olympic team for the women's soccer. So yeah, she's a great doctor, local doctor, and yeah, it's just good to be able to connect people with the right people and the people that actually care and have done research around postpartum, because as you say, there's not a whole lot of research around elite athletes coming back from having babies, and it is a little bit of guesswork. And you do I feel like I have both times. You know, you're kind of running in the dark a little bit in terms of information, but you've just got to work it out individually. And yeah, but those sorts of people and those sorts of professionals who are actually actively doing research and finding out as much as they can to give you the right information is really helpful.
Elsie, let's just do a quick exchange around this sort of top tips on a couple of key points. What would your top tip be to women looking to return to running postpartum be? Just one top tip, like if you could give one thing, and then the next question would be around strength and conditioning, return to that.
One top tip would just be don't rush. Just don't rush your comeback. Like just a really logical progression. You know, don't. I know you said one top tip, but this is all kind of interlinked. I feel like the comparison thing is a big thing, especially with social media. You can look at other women or other female athletes that are, ahead of you, and they had their baby after you, and you just can't even go there in your mind. You are on your own journey. Stay in your own lane. And be inspired by other women and encouraged by other women's journeys, but don't compare yourself. Don't rip yourself off by comparing yourself to other women, because I feel like it leads us down a path of potential destruction and bad decisions or poor decisions, and for our own body. And we've all got different life stresses going on, and we are all on our own journey. And that's what I would say. I would say just, don't rush it. Don't rush it, and definitely don't rush it because you're trying to compete or keep up with other women that you've seen the highlight reels of.
Yeah, gosh, so powerful. Strength and conditioning, Elsie, sort of top tip around helping women navigate that space.
Yeah, find a good strength and conditioning coach. I can't stress enough how much Jock Campbell has helped me understand my body more, especially postpartum, and especially it's really important that to have someone watch over you, watch over your, how you lift, and because eventually you want to get to a point where you are like lifting, really decent weights in the gym, and having someone watch the way you lift and make sure you're doing all of the exercises properly is really important. And so, a quality gym session, a quality strength session, and trying to, do things with excellence is really crucial for me.
A quality execution of the strength and conditioning work.
Yeah.
Fueling. Elsie, top tip around fueling. As you say, this is for me as a clinician an area of great challenge. How does the breastfeeding mother meet the energy demands of that, plus normal physiological daily processes, plus training? It's hard to quantify. It's a bit of guesswork. It's a tricky thing to navigate. But what would be your top tip around fueling postpartum, Elsie?
Like when I was breastfeeding, I was always hungry. And then when I weaned Sonny, which was when he was 12 months old, I was still training, obviously, but then I stopped breastfeeding and I just didn't feel as hungry. And so I wasn't eating as much as when I was breastfeeding, and I probably didn't get that balance right. I think just eating for training, eating for recovery, and just allowing yourself to fuel as you would a car. and making sure that you're getting enough energy. And I mean, the things about, it's one of the precursors to bone injuries is low energy availability. And so, if you're getting a lot of bone stress injuries, then you definitely want to cover that base and to make sure that you're fueling yourself properly, you're meeting your energy demands and more. And I wouldn't be afraid of staying. I mean, if you're the type of athlete that competes, I wouldn't be afraid of being heavier. And if you've got a ideal race weight that you're at, for me, I try and stay a little bit heavier year round, and I choose 1 or 2 races when I get to that race weight, that ideal race weight, and I don't stay there very long. And there's a discipline to that because you feel really, really good for a short amount of time because you're light and you're lean, and but it's, I would say, near impossible to stay that lean without getting sick or injured for a long time. And so it's really important, after those 1 or 2 races that I've chosen in the year, that I go back to train what I call my training weight, which is, a couple of kilos heavier than my racing weight. And the other key indicator for me is just making sure that I'm getting my period. That to me is a true sign of health. The fact that your body is not shutting down each month to focus on just surviving, and your body is ready to reproduce at any time is a key sign of health. And every time I get my period each month, I'm like, yay, it's a sign of health. It's not always yay, but it's like I have a backache and a headache, but this is awesome because I'm healthy and I know that I'm strong and healthy enough and my body knows what to do. I think that if that's not happening, then that could be a sign that, there's low energy availability, and, it might be an idea to go and see a dietitian or a nutritionist or a psychologist if that's something that you're struggling with, to go and address those issues and make sure that, you're just fueling your body properly.
You're listening to Eloise Wellings, dual Australian Olympian, sharing on her learnings garnered from her postpartum return to sport following the birth of her 2 children, Indy and Sonny. If you missed last week's episode, it was a conversation shared with Jess Stenson-Trengove, dual Commonwealth Games marathon bronze medalist and dual Australian Olympian, whereby Jess shared on her own journey and learnings of returning to sport postpartum. It's been a very popular episode. Here's a snippet of my conversation with Jess.
I guess I thought my body would just stop producing milk quite quickly, but it really was a gradual process where your body's slowly adjusting to the feeds being less and your supply's still high, and you've got to put up with a fair bit of discomfort while you're still producing milk. To enjoy the full episode, be sure to jump over to wherever it is that you enjoy your podcast from. We are also on YouTube now. Just search The Physical Performance Show. For now, let's jump back with this week's featured guest, Eloise Wellings, on all things return to sport postpartum. How do women postpartum best manage their expectations of themselves, whether it's just running or life?
There's so much uncertainty and so much flexibility that's needed when you have a baby, because you think your day is going to go a certain way and then it just totally doesn't, because you're not really in control anymore. The baby is in control. And so I think that that's something that I've had to relearn each time too, is that, okay, I wanted to get out for my first run at 9, or, once Indy goes to school at 9:15, and then, but Sonny's unsettled, or he's teething, or I need to feed him first, or he's just pooped again. Like, there's so many variables that could throw a spanner in the works of your schedule. And so I think just being flexible and just being okay. I'm definitely much more relaxed in terms of, like, I thrive with structure normally. And so, but having a newborn or having a toddler even, like you invariably can't necessarily have like a properly structured day because it could just go AWOL, at any moment. So yeah, I think just having flexibility and like being okay with that, and I'm trying not to take myself too seriously, and not, like enjoying the process of, finding that balance of being a mom and being here for my kids, but also having still a career and having a running career and something that I love to do. And in turn, taking them on that journey and teaching them something through that as well. Yeah, just keeping it light and having grace with yourself. There's some days that, especially early on in the first 6 months with Sonny, that I just had to call everything off. Like, I'm not training today. He's just a wreck. I just need to focus on him. And I think it just comes down to priorities. And, most of the time you're going to put your family first. Having grace with those days. And as I said, being flexible and free enough to go, you know what, I'm going to make this up at some point. Might be tomorrow, might be next week, might be the week after, but I'll make it up in terms of training, and that'll be fun too. I'll do a double day or a triple day, and, because that, time will allow it and Sonny will allow it. So I think just having that flexibility, knowing that things aren't always going to go the way that you had planned, just lowering that expectation a bit, but still having a high level of ambition, which is such a fine balance, because you want to try and get the most out of everything, and you want to try and reach your full potential in terms of your career, but also, you don't want it to be a stressful process. And I think being flexible and free and having grace with yourself is important so that you can enjoy the process.
Listening to your share around that, Elsie, perhaps that is where we do all find our sweet spot, where we aren't able to control everything and we have to let go a little and be a little bit more flexible and adaptable to situations, just more broadly speaking. But obviously that was all in the context of having a little toddler and meeting their demands. Elsie, you're a much loved guest of the show and now a three-peat guest of the show. And we cannot let you go without you issuing us with another physical challenge for the week. So this could be around the topic we've been discussing, or it could be freewheeling here. But as Eloise Wellings got a physical challenge we can take on for the week?
I'm going to make my friend Rory Darkens really proud and give you a breathing challenge. Because he's like a real breathing geek. No, he's actually doing a PhD on breathing and performance, but yes, also a breathing geek. But yeah, I am going to say go for a walk and do what's called box breathing. So you breathe out for 4 steps, hold for 4 steps, breathe in for 4 steps, and hold for 4 steps, and continue that. And what it's meant to do is give you a higher level of CO2 tolerance, which is what we all need as athletes. And it also, there's many, many other health benefits to this type of breathing and to practicing this type of breathing, including stress release and just a higher sense and level of well-being. And there's lots of research around it, which I'm sure Rory talked about in his podcast with you. But yeah, try box breathing. That's my challenge.
And it was breathe out for 4 steps, in for 4 steps, and then out for 4 steps. Is that correct?
No, it's breathe in for 4 steps and hold for 4 steps.
Yep.
So don't breathe at all.
Yep.
Just hold, and then breathe out for 4 steps and hold for 4 steps.
Yep, and then hold.
And then breathe in again, and then hold, out, and hold.
And repeat.
For
a walk.
Yeah, I reckon 20 or 30 minutes.
All right. Well, that is unique. The Elsie Wellings / Rory Darkens box breathing challenge. And
That's
Elsie,
right.
There's a lot coming up for you, but anywhere in particular you'd like to direct us to go to either support any of the great endeavours you're part of there, such as the Mother Run, or follow your journey? What's the best platform?
Yes. So you can sponsor me on the Mother Run, because I'm doing my 5K a day plus some in the Mother Run. And you can find the link in my bio on Instagram. And it ends on the 30th of May. And as I said, $50 will provide a safe birthing kit to allow a mum in Uganda to give birth in a safe and empowered manner. And I want to thank everyone for your support, and thanks to you, Brad. I noticed that you donated this morning.
I got in kind of early. It's nearly near the end of May. So anyway, we got there. But Elsie, an absolute pleasure. And if people don't jump over to do that, which I'd encourage us to do, please let's get behind this. Then you are one of the great orators on Instagram. When Johnny, your husband, had his recent birthday, you commented, "It's this guy's birthday, and he's the butter to our peanut and the nays to our mayo."
I don't know what I'm saying. I'm just being an idiot. I'm kind of, every time I come up with a caption on Instagram, I'm like, there's some people who are just not going to get this. But there's a handful of my close friends who will just like laugh at me, and that's enough for me.
That is brilliant, and what a great way to bring this conversation to a close. So, Elsie, Sonny may be stirring in the background at some point, so you go and get a little bit of box breathing done. But thank you once again, and as always, for your contribution to the show.
Thanks so much, Brad.
So there you have it, another episode of the Physical Performance Show. And I trust and I know you enjoyed, as always, Eloise Wellings' share-ins. If you are yet to follow Eloise on Instagram, be sure to jump over and do so. Eloise is such a great follow. Elsie Wellings, ELZY, Wellings, WELLINGS. Of course, while you're there, be sure to also follow the Love Mercy Foundation, and where you can, get involved and support Love Mercy's fantastic initiatives. Whilst you're on the socials, if you'd like to tag the Physical Performance Show in on a podsy, that's a screenshot of the episode you're enjoying. You can tag the show in at Physical Performance Show. You'll find me over on social and Strava at Brad_Beer. And you are always welcome to reach out via an email if you have an injury question or would like to pass on some feedback regarding the show, b.beer@pogophysio.com.au. Massive thanks once again to today's show's sponsor, Earshot's Bluetooth headphones. If you are sick of your earphones falling out or running low on charge too soon, then Earshots are your solution. You can receive 10% off the retail price of $169.75 by using the code TPPS at checkout. Of course, a huge thanks to the great folk who make this show possible each and every week. Daryl Misson, our audio engineer, Susan Wilkin on all things show administration, and Matthew Walding on all things show graphic design. As mentioned earlier in the show, podcasts are free to download. However, they are not free to produce. So we are so appreciative of our Physical Performance Show patrons who have access to our Learnings membership. If you'd like to pledge your support, you can do so from just $5 per month, and we'll send out access codes to our back catalogue of live stream events featuring Dr. Shona Halson on all things optimizing athletic recovery and Dr. Stephen Seiler on all things polarized training. Now, coming up on next week's episode of the Physical Performance Show, we jump over to an expert edition, and we've invited US-based running researcher Max Paquette back onto the show. Max featured recently on episode 264 on an episode devoted to exploring moving beyond weekly mileage. That is the quantification of running training workload beyond simply the mileage that we run. That episode was very popular, and I'm really excited as next week we'll share a conversation recently had with Max exploring all things running surface interactions. This is an area as a physiotherapist where I see many myths being perpetuated. Ideas that softer surfaces are better and that they would lead to potentially lower injury risk. However, on next week's episode, Max sets the record straight when it comes to surface interactions. What's better, hard, soft, in between? So be sure to tune in next week for Max's great learnings around all things running surface interactions. Until then, keep pursuing your physical best performance. I'm Brad Beer, and this has been the Physical Performance Show.